My disabled daughter was standing at the end of our driveway, holding her little pink walker, smiling at butterflies drifting through the garden. She was 8 years old, gentle, soft, and moving slowly because of her condition, but happy. Then Karen appeared. She stormed down the sidewalk in a bright red dress, her heels stabbing the concrete like she owned the whole neighborhood. Her eyes locked onto my daughter with disgust, as if a child enjoying butterflies was an offense. "You don't belong out here," she snapped. "You're breaking HOA rules with that ugly walker. Go inside before I make you." Karen stepped closer, then reached into her purse. My daughter thought she was pulling out a warning slip, but Karen didn't pull out paper. She pulled out a gun. She aimed it straight at my disabled child. Neighbors gasped. My daughter screamed. But Karen made one mistake she will regret forever. The little girl she pointed a gun at is the daughter of a Delta Force soldier. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you are watching from. And please hit subscribe for more stories where the good guys always win. The morning began like any other in our quiet neighborhood. Soft sunlight warming the lawns, birds hopping between branches, the scent of freshly cut grass drifting through the air. My disabled daughter stood at the end of our driveway, holding her little pink walker with both hands. She moved slowly, gently, each step careful and deliberate, but her face held a peace that glowed brighter than the sun. She giggled quietly as butterflies floated through the garden, sometimes landing on a flower right beside her. She loved moments like this, moments where nothing hurt, nothing frightened her, and the world felt kind. She was 8 years old, sweet, innocent, slow-moving because of her condition but full of light. She didn't know that danger was already walking toward her. Then Karen appeared. She came storming down the sidewalk wearing a bright red dress that flapped behind her like a warning flag. Her heels smacked the pavement with sharp, angry clicks, each one sounding like she was declaring ownership of the entire neighborhood. Her face twisted into disgust the moment she saw my daughter. Not confusion, not concern. Disgust, pure and unmistakable. Karen had always been dramatic, always loud, always convinced she was the queen of the HOA. But today, something in her eyes was different. Sharper, hotter, unhinged. She marched straight toward my daughter as if she'd been waiting for this moment all morning. "You don't belong out here," she snapped, her voice slicing through the peaceful air. "You're breaking HOA rules with that ugly walker. Go inside before I make you." My daughter froze, her smile vanishing instantly. Her small shoulders curled inward as she looked down at her walker, as if she wasn't sure what she had done wrong. She tried to respond, but her voice came out tiny and scared. I'm sorry, I didn't know." But Karen wasn't listening. Karen never listened. She stepped even closer, her red dress swaying violently with each step, her eyes burning with righteous anger only she understood. The neighbors who were outside, watering flowers, unloading groceries, walking their dogs, froze mid-action. Everyone knew Karen was strict and easily angered, but nobody expected this level of fury. A man paused on his porch steps, one foot raised, unable to move. A woman holding a baby clutched the child closer to her chest, uncertain if she should intervene or run inside. My daughter tried to inch backward, but her legs couldn't move fast enough. The walker rattled beneath her trembling hands. Fear grew in her eyes, a fear no child should ever know. Then Karen reached into her purse. My daughter let out a tiny sigh of relief, believing Karen was grabbing another warning slip, another one of those HOA notices she taped onto doors like trophies. Neighbors leaned forward slightly, expecting a dramatic paper-waving moment. But Karen didn't pull out paper. She pulled out a gun, a real, heavy, black pistol. There was no hesitation, no pause, no warning. Karen lifted the gun and aimed it directly at my daughter's chest. The world shattered. My daughter's scream tore through the neighborhood like lightning. A woman dropped her grocery bags, fruits rolling across the driveway. A teen on a skateboard stumbled backward, nearly falling. A dog barked once and then hid behind its owner. Every single neighbor went pale, eyes wide, hands trembling. But they were frozen, as if stepping forward might make the bullet fly faster. Karen didn't blink. She didn't tremble. She didn't breathe any faster. Her face remained twisted in fury, in superiority, in madness. "You people think you can ignore the rules?" she hissed, her voice shaking with intensity. "I'm tired of looking at that thing." She pointed the gun at my daughter's walker. Every single day. You want to break the rules? Fine. Then face the consequences. My daughter sobbed, her tears falling fast, dripping onto her walker. Please, please don't hurt me. Neighbors gasped again, some covering their mouths, others whispering prayers. But Karen didn't lower the gun. In her delusional mind, she wasn't committing a crime. She was enforcing her own warped version of justice. Then something shifted, a presence, a pressure, a change in the air. Karen didn't feel it, but the neighbors did. Every head slowly turned toward the source of the sound that followed. Heavy footsteps, familiar, steady, controlled. Not running, not stumbling, walking with purpose. My daughter's eyes widened with hope, her tears pausing as she tried to see past Karen. Because she knew those footsteps. She knew her father was coming. Karen kept the gun pointed, oblivious, believing she still had the upper hand, believing she still held all the power. But she made one mistake she would never recover from. The little girl she pointed a gun at, the disabled child she terrorized, is the daughter of a Delta Force soldier. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you are watching from, and please hit subscribe for more stories where the good guys always win. As Karen held the gun steady, the entire neighborhood seemed to freeze in place. It was like the world suddenly forgot how to move. A mother across the street instinctively grabbed her young son and shielded him behind her body. A man watering his lawn dropped the hose, water spraying across his shoes, but he didn't even notice. A teenage girl on her bicycle skidded to a stop, her mouth hanging open, eyes locked on the unimaginable scene unfolding before her. People peeked from behind curtains, slowly opening their doors, all drawn by my daughter's terrified scream. Meanwhile, my daughter stood trembling so violently that her little pink walker rattled beneath her hands. Her knees buckled, and she tried to back away, but her disability kept her rooted to the ground. Each step she wanted to take was stolen from her by fear and the limitations of her body. She stared up at Karen with big, wet eyes that begged for mercy. Mercy Karen did not have. Karen's red dress fluttered like a flag of madness. She held the gun with both hands now, bracing herself as if she were performing a public service instead of threatening an innocent child. "This is what happens when people don't follow the rules," she shouted, projecting her voice so the entire neighborhood could hear her authority. "Your daughter is breaking HOA standards. I warned you people before." My daughter's voice cracked when she tried to speak. "Please, please don't hurt me. I didn't know." Her little voice broke every heart on that street. Everyone knew Karen was unhinged, but no one realized she had crossed the line between authority and insanity. Neighbors wanted to help, desperately, but nobody dared to move. Every parent in the neighborhood recognized that any sudden motion could make Karen pull the trigger. Some whispered prayers, some cried quietly, some held their hands over their mouths. Everyone was terrified. Then it happened, the moment that changed everything. Footsteps, slow, heavy, steady footsteps. They came from the side of the house, echoing with a confidence and control no ordinary person carried. The neighbors heard it first, their heads turned, their eyes widened with something new, not fear, not panic, but a mixture of relief and awe, because they knew who those footsteps belonged to. Karen didn't know yet. She remained fixated on my daughter, tightening her grip on the gun each time my little girl whimpered. She was too busy reaming about HOA rules to see what everyone else saw. I stepped into view, not running, not shouting, not panicking, walking, calm, controlled, deadly silent, the kind of calm that only comes from surviving things Karen couldn't imagine. War zones, hostile raids, life or death missions in the dark. Things that forge a different type of man, the type who doesn't hesitate when danger threatens someone he loves. Karen finally noticed the shift in the crowd. Their attention wasn't on her anymore. It was behind her. She spun around, gun still raised, expecting to see another neighbor frozen in fear. Instead, she saw me. For a moment, confusion flickered across her face. Just a moment. Then her expression twisted into annoyance. "Oh, wonderful," she snapped sarcastically. "The irresponsible father finally shows up. Tell your daughter to get inside before I—" "Put the gun down," I said quietly. The way I spoke stopped some neighbors mid-breath. It wasn't loud, it wasn't emotional, it wasn't panicked. It was the calm, low, controlled voice of someone who had stared death in the face before and didn't flinch. Karen scoffed. "Excuse me, who do you think you are? I am the HOA president. I am handling this situation. I didn't blink. Put the gun down. Karen took a step toward me, waving the gun like she was swatting away a fly. No, you need to control your child. She's been violating rules for months. All of you neighbors ignore me. I'm the only one trying to keep this neighborhood in order. Behind me, neighbors whispered fearfully. Oh God, she's aiming at him now. He's too close. No, look at him. He's not afraid. My daughter let out a sob, reaching one shaking hand toward me. Her voice broke. Daddy! My blood turned cold. I took one slow step forward. Not enough to startle Karen. Just enough to close some distance. Karen shrieked, Don't move! I swear I will shoot. You won't, I said calmly. You have no idea what you're doing. Karen's face turned red with fury. Yes, I do. I am enforcing the rules, and you can't stop me. I stepped closer again. One neighbor whispered, He's Delta Force. She has no idea. Another gasped. She's messing with the wrong man. And still Karen didn't understand. I wasn't just another neighbor arguing about trash bins or fence height. I wasn't a man she could bully with fine slips or empty threats. I was something entirely different. My voice dropped even lower, the tone I used only in the most dangerous moments. Karen, you're pointing a gun at my daughter. This ends now. Put the weapon down. She laughed, actually laughed. You think your military attitude scares me? You think I care? This is my neighborhood. She raised the gun higher. My daughter screamed. Neighbors ducked behind cars and bushes. Karen muttered, If no one else will keep things under control, then I will. That was when I stopped talking. Stopped thinking like a civilian. Stopped analyzing like a parent. Instinct kicked in. Training took over. My world narrowed to a single point of focus, the gun in Karen's hand and the threat it posed to the most important person in my life. Karen still didn't understand why everyone was looking at me differently. She still didn't understand why I wasn't afraid of her gun. She still didn't understand that she wasn't controlling the situation anymore, but she was about to learn. Because I wasn't just a father, I was Delta Force. And when you threaten a soldier's child, that soldier stops the threat, no matter what. Karen finally turned toward me, her bright red dress whipping around her legs in the breeze, her grip tightening on the gun as if she were the sheriff of some imaginary kingdom. Her face twisted into an expression that mixed anger, pride, and something far more dangerous. Delusion. My daughter's sobs echoed softly across the driveway, but Karen seemed deaf to them. She pointed the gun at me now, switching targets like she was choosing dessert at a buffet. Stay back, she screamed, spit flying from her mouth. Your daughter broke the rules. I'm fixing it. The crowd watched with wide eyes, breaths held, some covering their mouths, others silently shaking their heads, but no one dared move. The fear was too thick, too heavy. Even the wind seemed afraid to blow too loudly. My voice came out low, steady, controlled, the kind of calm that doesn't come from bravery but from training, from experience, from years of walking into danger and learning not to flinch. Put the gun down. Karen laughed, actually laughed. A sharp, brittle sound that didn't belong on a peaceful suburban street, but in a padded room with padded walls. She threw her head back as if I'd just told her the funniest joke in the world. Oh, look at you, she mocked, talking like you're somebody important. You think your little attitude scares me? I am the authority here. Authority. The word tasted sour coming from her mouth. Karen had no idea who she was talking to. She had no clue that she was pointing a gun at a man who had taken weapons from the hands of people far more dangerous, far more skilled, far more determined to kill than she'd ever be. She had no idea she was screaming orders at someone trained to neutralize armed threats in the dark, under pressure, surrounded by danger. Real danger, not HOA violations. She thought she was the authority. She was about to learn the truth. Karen shifted her stance, trying to imitate what she'd probably seen in some TV drama, feet spread, gun raised, chin out like she was a pretend officer. But her posture was wrong. Her elbows were stiff, her shoulders lifted too high, her stance unbalanced. She didn't know how to hold a weapon. She didn't understand recoil, aim, control, or consequences. But I did. I saw every flaw in her position, every weakness, every opening. Don't take another step, she shrieked. I took another step. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's eyes widened, and she jerked the gun toward my chest. "I swear I will shoot!" My daughter's scream tore through the air. "Daddy, please!" Her voice cracked, trembling, the sound of pure terror, not the kind a child forgets when the world calms down, but the kind that leaves a mark forever. I felt something tighten inside me, something dangerous and primal and protective. I kept moving. Karen's hand trembled slightly, not from fear, from rage. "You think you can ignore me?" she shouted. "You think you can tell me what to do? I warned you people. I warned everyone. This neighborhood used to be perfect until you moved in." I stepped closer. She stepped back. Her voice grew louder. "What kind of father lets his disabled child wander around ruining property values? Do you think this is a charity neighborhood? Do you?" My jaw tightened. I spoke again, the same calm tone, the kind that makes people lean in even when they don't want to. "Karen, put the gun down." She jabbed the gun toward me, finger dangerously close to the trigger. "Stop saying that. I'm the one in control. Me, not you." Behind her, neighbors whispered, "He's so calm. She has no idea who he is. He moves like a soldier. Oh God, she's threatening the wrong man." Karen didn't hear them. Her world was small, just her anger and her fantasy of power. "You should have listened," she screamed. "If you had followed the rules, none of this would be happening. Your daughter should be inside, out of sight. She's an eyesore. My voice cut through hers like steel. "She's 8 years old." Karen's mouth snapped shut for a brief second, but only for a second. "She's still breaking rules. Disabled or not, I don't care. Karen," I interrupted, taking another step forward. "You are pointing a weapon at a child, and I will use IT," she screamed, her finger tightening. My daughter let out a sob so heartbreaking that even the neighbors cried. She clutched her walker, begging, "Daddy, please help." That was it. The moment everything changed inside me, something cold washed through my veins, something quieter than fear, deeper than anger, something honed in deserts, in jungles, in cities half broken by war. The part of me that knew exactly what to do when someone pointed a gun at an innocent life. Karen didn't see it, but the neighbors did. They saw my posture shift ever so slightly. They saw my breathing slow. They saw my eyes sharpen. They saw the soldier taking over. Karen raised the gun fully now, both hands gripping it, arms stiff, aim wild and unsteady. I said, "Stay back." I kept walking. "Stop," she screamed, panic slipping into her voice now. "I'm warning you." "You already did," I said. My voice was so calm the neighbors shivered. Karen blinked, startled by the certainty in my tone. What do you mean? You pointed a gun at my daughter." I stepped closer still. "And you don't know who I am?" Her eyebrows furrowed. "What are you?" "I'm Delta Force." The silence that followed was louder than her screaming. Every neighbor froze. A few mouthed the words, "Oh my God." That explains everything. She's dead. Karen's confidence cracked. Her hand wobbled. Her eyes darted uncertainly. What does that even mean?" she stammered. I don't care about your army stuff." I took one final step, close enough to smell the cheap perfume on her dress, close enough to see the tremor in her finger, close enough to end this. "You should," I said, "because I'm trained to stop people like you before they who. RT, anyone." Karen's mouth opened, but she didn't get to speak. In less than 1 second, faster than she could blink, everything changed. Karen's finger twitched toward the trigger, so small a movement that most people would have missed it. But not me. Not someone trained to read the tiniest signals, the smallest shifts in body language, the micro-expressions of a person about to do something irreversible. That twitch wasn't random. It wasn't a nervous shake. It was the first step toward pulling the trigger, toward unleashing something unthinkable on my little girl. For everyone else on that street, time froze. For me, time slowed. My breath steadied. My vision sharpened. My heartbeat dropped into a calm, deadly rhythm I hadn't felt in years. Delta Force mode. Karen didn't even have time to register the shift in my stance. She was too focused on the twisted satisfaction she felt holding that gun. In her mind, she was in control. She believed this entire moment was hers to command. She thought her red dress and fake HOA authority made her powerful. She was wrong. The second her finger tightened again, everything inside me ignited at once. I moved. I didn't run. I didn't jump. I didn't shout. I executed a precision disarm, the kind taught to special operations soldiers whose lives depend on perfection. My right hand shot forward, gripping her wrist with surgical accuracy. My left hand crashed against the back of the gun, twisting it sharply upward. Karen barely had time to let out a high-pitched gasp before her entire body lurched from the force. The gun flew out of her hand, spinning end over end in the air, sunlight flashing off its barrel. For a moment it looked like slow motion, a black streak against a blue sky. It clattered violently against the pavement, bouncing twice before skidding to a stop near a neighbor's mailbox. Gasps erupted around us. Karen F. rose in shock, eyes bulging, mouth opening and closing like she couldn't comprehend what just happened. She tried to step back, but I didn't give her the chance. In one fluid, unstoppable motion, I pivoted on my heel, shifted my weight, and swept her feet out from under her. Her red dress flew upward as she crashed to the ground, landing face first against the concrete with a scream that echoed down the entire street. Neighbors flinched. Some winced. A few whispered, "Oh my God." I was already on her. My knee pinned her spine. My hand pressed her wrist flat against the pavement. My body anchored her like she weighed nothing. Because in that moment she did. She wasn't a queen. She wasn't a leader. She wasn't a protector of rules. She was a threat, and threats must be neutralized. Karen shrieked, her voice shrill and cracking under the pressure. "Get off of me! You can't do this! I'm the HOA president!" Her words rang hollow now, falling apart like broken glass. Her authority had evaporated the moment that gun left her hand. I tightened my hold, not enough to hurt her, but enough to show absolute dominance. "You pointed a weapon at a child," I said, my voice low and cold. "Your title means nothing." My daughter sobbed behind me, crying into her walker handles, tears dripping onto her trembling hands. I heard her tiny voice calling out, "Daddy, Daddy," over and over, each word painful, each one a reminder of what almost happened. I kept Karen pinned and looked back at my daughter long enough to say, "You're safe now, sweetheart. I'm here." Karen, still squirming, slammed her hand uselessly against the pavement. "Get off me. You'll be arrested. This is assault. This is assault." A neighbor shouted from a porch, voice trembling but furious. "You pointed a gun at his disabled child, Karen." Another neighbor stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "You could have led her. You're a monster. How dare you?" Karen screamed louder, kicking her heels against the ground. "I was enforcing rules. She breaks rules. That walker is illegal." I leaned closer to her ear, my voice dropping to a tone so quiet and icy that even the neighbors went silent. "You almost took my daughter from me." Karen froze, not completely, not physically, but mentally. Something cracked. My grip didn't loosen. Her voice, once so confident and dripping with self-importance, wavered. I was just trying to protect the community. By pointing a gun at a child?" I snapped back. "By threatening someone who can barely walk without help?" Karen stuttered, her voice slipping into panic. It's the rules, the HOA handbook. I was enforcing." "No," I said. "You were trying to feel powerful." She swallowed hard. The neighbors murmured behind us. Some cried softly. Some hugged their children. Others stood with their arms crossed in anger. But not a single person defended Karen. Not one. Because they all knew, deep down, she had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer, faster. Karen heard them too. She panicked again, thrashing wildly. "No! No, let me up! They'll believe me! I'm the HOA president! I'm respected! You attacked me!" I held her down easily. "They're not coming for me." She stopped struggling. Her chest rose and fell with frantic breaths. What do you mean?" "They're coming for the woman who pointed a gun at an 8-year-old. Her eyes widened. She finally understood. Police cars turned onto our street, sirens flashing, lights painting the houses red and blue. Officers stepped out, hands on weapons, eyes scanning the scene. But when they saw my daughter crying behind her walker, and Karen pinned beneath me in a wrinkled red dress, and a gun lying on the pavement. They drew the only conclusion any sane person would. Karen's reign of fear was over, and the law, real law, had finally arrived. The moment the police cruisers screeched to a stop, the entire neighborhood seemed to vibrate with a mix of fear and relief. Red and blue lights flashed across every window, every lawn, every terrified face. Neighbors stepped back instinctively, forming a wide circle around us as officers leaped out of their vehicles, with urgency carved into their expressions. They had no idea what they were responding to, only that a frantic 911 call had reported a woman pointing a gun at a disabled child. Nothing could have prepared them for the scene they found. Karen lay pinned beneath me, her bright red dress rumpled and streaked with dirt, her hair wild and tangled like she had been fighting ghosts. She continued kicking her heels against the pavement, screaming a shrill barrage of nonsense. "Let me go! I'm the HOA president! He's attacking me! That child is a rule breaker!" The officers looked from Karen to the gun lying on the pavement, to my daughter clutching her pink walker, her face drenched in tears, to the terrified neighbors huddled together as witnesses, and every one of them instantly understood who the real threat was. 2 officers approached me cautiously at first, not knowing my background, not knowing why Karen was pinned, but when they saw the weapon and the fear on my daughter's face, their tone changed. One officer, a younger man with shaking hands, pointed at the gun and whispered to his partner, "That thing is loaded." I released Karen slowly, deliberately, raising my hands just enough to show I wasn't resisting, not that I had any reason to. The lead officer stepped closer. "Sir, are you the father?" "Yes," I said. My voice was calm, but inside, adrenaline still thrummed like electricity. She pointed the gun at my daughter. The officer's face hardened. He nodded once, sharp and professional. "We've got it from here." He motioned to his team. "And him." Immediately, 2 officers grabbed Karen's arms. She shrieked in outrage, her voice cracking like glass. "Don't touch me! Get your hands off me! I am the HOA president. He's the criminal. They're breaking rules. I was protecting the community." Her words spilled out like poison, fast and frantic. The officers didn't flinch. They twisted her arms behind her back and clicked handcuffs onto her wrists in one smooth motion. Karen gasped dramatically, as if she were the victim, as if she hadn't been seconds away from destroying an innocent child's life. One officer, irritated, said, "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, and attempted homicide." Karen's head snapped up, her eyes wide, her face twisted with disbelief. "What? I did nothing wrong. That child was breaking HOA rules." The neighborhood erupted. A man yelled, "HOA rules don't give you the right to shoot someone." A mother added, "She's a little girl, Karen." Another woman sobbed, "How could you do that to a child?" Karen thrashed harder. "You're all against me. I told you this neighborhood was going downhill. I'm the only one who cares." One of the officers guiding her to the cruiser muttered under his breath, "Lady, you're completely unhinged." They dragged her toward the back seat, but Karen planted her heels into the ground, screaming at the top of her lungs, "He's dangerous! That man is dangerous! He attacked me!" A nearby neighbor scoffed. "He saved his daughter's life." "You're the danger." The officers finally forced Karen into the patrol car. Her red dress bunched awkwardly around her knees as she kicked furiously at the door. The moment it closed, the car shook from the force of her screaming inside. But the neighborhood was silent now, silent like the world holding its breath. My daughter stood still, gripping her walker so tightly her fingers were nearly purple. Her chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. Tears kept rolling down her cheeks, but she didn't make a sound. Not anymore. Trauma had stolen her voice for the moment. I crouched down to her level and opened my arms. She moved toward me slowly, then suddenly collapsed into my chest with a broken sob. I held her tightly, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other arm wrapped securely around her small, shaking body. "It's okay," I whispered. "I've got you. You're safe. Daddy's here." Her little fingers clutched my shirt like she thought I might disappear if she let go. Nearby, the officers began interviewing neighbors. People lined up to give statements, and they didn't hold back. Years of fear, intimidation, and harassment poured out like water bursting through a dam. Neighbors confessed how Karen had threatened them, fined them for imaginary violations, followed their children, shouted at families, and used her HOA position like a weapon. One man said, She told me she wished disabled kids would stay inside so she didn't have to look at them. Another whispered, crying, I always knew she was dangerous. I didn't think she'd go this far. A woman added, she targeted your daughter because she knew she couldn't run. Their words made my jaw clench so tightly it hurt. The lead officer approached me again. Sir, based on everything we've heard, this isn't just assault. This is premeditated behavior. She's been escalating for months. I nodded slowly. I had a feeling. And, he added quietly, your disarm was flawless. Military? Yes. Branch? Delta Force? His eyes widened slightly, and he nodded with new respect. Then your reaction today probably saved your daughter's life. That sentence punched the air out of my lungs. Saved her life. I held my daughter closer, feeling her heartbeat against my chest. The idea that she had been moments, seconds from death hit me all at once. My eyes burned with emotion I rarely let anyone see. The officer placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. We'll make sure she never gets near your family again. Karen's screams grew quiet as the patrol car drove away. The neighborhood watched the flashing lights disappear down the street. And for the first time in years, they felt safe. But justice wasn't done yet. This was only the beginning. Karen's screams were still echoing faintly in the distance when the patrol car finally disappeared around the corner. The red and blue lights faded from the street, leaving behind a quiet that felt almost unreal. The neighborhood stood frozen for a long moment, as if no one wanted to be the first to move or speak. The world that had felt so peaceful only an hour ago had turned into a nightmare, but that nightmare was over now. My daughter still clung to me, her little body trembling, her cheek pressed against my shoulder as if she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. I held her with both arms, one hand on her back, the other on her head, and breathed slowly until her shaking calmed. Every parent knows there are different kinds of hugs. The cheerful morning hug, the bedtime hug, the you did great hug. But this was the hug of survival. The hug that said, I'm here, you're safe, nothing will ever hurt you again. A few neighbors stepped closer once they felt it was safe. The first was Mrs. Allen, an elderly woman who had lived there longer than any of us. She wiped her tears with shaking hands. I'm so sorry, she whispered. None of us knew she would go this far. We should have stopped her years ago. I shook my head gently. You're not to blame. Karen hid behind authority. Bullies always find a disguise. Behind her, a young father approached with his two sons. His voice broke as he spoke. We all saw what happened. She could have killed your little girl. My daughter let out a soft whimper at those words, and he immediately apologized. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You're safe now. You were very brave. More neighbors gathered. Some cried. Some apologized. Some admitted how scared they had been of Karen for years, how she had fined them, stalked them, humiliated them, threatened them. Story after story came out, like a dam bursting open after being. G held back too long. It became clear that Karen hadn't just been a bully. She had been a predator, and everyone had been too afraid to fight back. But today changed everything. One of the officers returned to speak with me privately. Sir, she won't be released anytime soon. With the charges she's facing, attempted murder, child endangerment, assault with a deadly weapon, she will be in custody for a long time. I nodded. Good. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel vengeance or hatred. Only a cold, steady relief that my daughter was alive and Karen would never hurt her, or anyone else, again. But the hardest part of the day wasn't the arrest. It wasn't the danger. It wasn't even the terrifying moment Karen pulled the trigger halfway and screamed she would shoot. It was what happened next. I knelt down and looked into my daughter's tear-filled eyes. She avoided looking at the street, staring only at me. Her voice trembled softly. Daddy, why did she hate me? Those words shattered me. I felt something heavy inside my chest, something that physically hurt. How do you explain to a child that cruelty makes no sense? How do you explain why someone would hate her for simply being different? I wiped her tears gently. She hated what she didn't understand, sweetheart. But you don't have to worry anymore. She can't hurt you. She sniffled. But she pointed a gun at me. I know, I whispered, pulling her close again, and I'll never let anything like that happen again. She buried her face in my shirt and held on. I felt her tiny heartbeat thumping against me faster than it should, and I held her as tightly as I dared without hurting her. Her pink walker leaned sideways beside us, its wheels still trembling from earlier. Slowly, neighbors began offering help. bringing blankets, warm drinks, stuffed animals, comforting words. Someone even brought my daughter a small butterfly-shaped hair clip to replace the piece she had lost earlier. For the first time in years, everyone stood together, united not by fear of Karen, but by the desire to heal. And then something surprising happened. A group of neighbors approached me, the same neighbors Karen used to intimidate with fines, threats, and rules that never existed. "Sir," one woman said, "we want you to know something." I looked up, waiting. "The HOA. It's not her anymore. We're voting her out today." The crowd behind her nodded firmly. "We want her gone. We're done being scared. She doesn't represent us. We're sorry we let her treat your daughter like that." I didn't say anything at first. I just listened, absorbing the weight of their words. For years, Karen had ruled the neighborhood with fear, but today the fear broke, shattered by her own cruelty. Finally, I spoke. "Thank you. Not for me, for my daughter." They nodded, some crying again. A few of the men even placed hands on my shoulder, grateful, relieved, and ashamed all at once. As the sun began to set, the officers returned with final updates. Karen had confessed to more than they expected. She believed she was justified, which made her confession even stronger legally. She wouldn't see freedom for a long, long time. The officer saluted me gently. "Sir, I know your background. I know Delta Force when I see it. Today, your training saved lives." I nodded. "It's what we do, but today, it was personal." He smiled respectfully. "And that's why she never stood a chance." My daughter, now calmer, reached up and grabbed my hand tightly. She whispered, "Daddy, can we go see the butterflies again tomorrow?" Her voice was still shaky, but it held hope. I smiled softly. "Yes, sweetheart. Tomorrow, the butterflies are all yours." We walked back to the house slowly, her hand in mine, her walker squeaking softly as she moved. The neighborhood behind us stayed quiet, peaceful, the kind of peace that comes only after justice is served. Karen thought she controlled the neighborhood. She thought fear made her powerful. She thought she could hurt an innocent child and walk away untouched. But she forgot one simple truth. Some dads aren't just fathers. Some dads are Delta Force, and when you threaten their family, you don't win.